There was a barrier out there to be broken today in Austria for Formula One cars in this current configuration. That was 1 minute 4 around the Austrian circuit, the very small Austrian circuit. Max did it twice, 1 minute 3.8 and then 1 minute 3.9 in his last run in Q3. Both laps good enough for the pole, and both laps had him through the speed trap at around 314 kilometers an hour, a number that has been irritating Mercedes all day, because the best that Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas are doing through that same speed trap, 310, 311 kilometers an hour. And it isn't just about engines, as I've been saying over the last couple of videos. It's about the overall package. It's about how Red Bull are able to trim that car given the amount of efficient downforce they have from this great Adrian Newey high rake creation. Both Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas did 1 minute 4.0s. Of course, Valtteri has that 3-place grid penalty after spinning in the pit lane yesterday. So Max and Lewis Hamilton on the front row, both on medium tyres. But who is effectively P3 with Valtteri having that penalty? Lando Norris, who did an absolutely superb job in the McLaren-Mercedes. As I said yesterday, there aren't many great corners in Austria. Yes, there are places where it's difficult, it's tricky, there are blind brows, there's downhill braking, there's some quick corners, slow corners, high speed braking. But there are no really great corners. And I think that is how Lando approached his weekend. It was all about precision. It was all about how close he can get to the edge in terms of braking, how big a margin he would have to leave here or there. The most impressive thing of all, however, was how McLaren managed to give both Lando and Daniel Ricciardo, it has to be said, who basically was 0.6 slower than Lando throughout the day today. A massive amount of top speed increase going into qualifying. In FP3 this morning, when they were running fuel loads, and indeed when they were on soft tyres as well, the McLarens, like the other Mercedes runners, were doing around 310, 311. In qualifying, both cars were doing 317. Lando by far and away the quickest in a straight line in qualifying. Of course, he will take that top speed advantage into the race tomorrow. Daniel Ricciardo, as I say, basically 0.6 slower than Lando throughout the day, didn't get through to Q3 on this sort of circuit, which should basically suit him. It's a racer's circuit. It's all about race day, as his engineer said to him afterwards. And I was a bit surprised that Daniel said, yeah, no worries. Yeah, we'll think about tomorrow. I mean, he didn't seem that upset about it. But the difference between him and Lando around here on a very short lap is absolutely gargantuan. And lest we think that top speed of the McLarens is one-off, perhaps a toe. As I say, both drivers doing 317. And if you look at Lando's top speeds in qualifying, he was doing 315, 316 in Q1 and Q2. So the odds of him getting a toe in every session on every lap, pretty small, I think. So yeah, McLaren really quick in a straight line, and they will be taking that advantage into the race. And I dare say Lewis Hamilton and Max will be thinking, wow, that car is very quick in a straight line, may cause us a few problems, particularly, of course, aided by DRS. But just to reiterate the point, Max and Lewis starting on the medium tyre, Lando will be on the soft tyre. The only other runner on the medium will be Valtteri Bottas, who has that 3-place grid penalty and be starting behind Sergio Perez. For his part, Sergio did a good job for Red Bull Honda. He was actually quickest in Q2, but only because he'd gone out on mediums, hadn't really done a lap, and they put the softs on his car. So he went out and he was top of the times in the second half of Q2, and he will start in 4th place. No less a story, really, in my view, is George Russell yet again. As I said yesterday, he was superbly quick with fuel in the car. He was really quick on a light fuel load as well. He just failed to get into Q3 today by the margin of 0.01, 100th of a second. It was Lance Stroll that got that position, but 4 drivers basically all did 4.6. Had George gone 0.06 quicker, which isn't much, he would have actually been P8 in Q2 and easily gone through into Q3. That's how close it was. That's how close inevitably it is around a circuit like Austria, which is, let's face it, very, very short lap. But full marks to George, excellent performance. Nicholas Latifi put him under quite a lot of pressure in Q1 because he'd done a 5.1 and George on his first run hadn't been that quick, a 5.2, 5.3, something like that. No way on that time was he going to get through into Q2. So they all went out right at the end of Q1, lots of traffic, and George got in a 5.0, which got him in to Q2. Nicholas didn't go any quicker, but full marks to him too for doing a very good job today in that ever-improving Williams Mercedes. Very disappointing was Esteban Ocon. He didn't get out of Q1 in the Alpine, but Fernando Alonso, by contrast, as we said yesterday, as we said in France, looking ever more confident in that car. He got through to Q3 quite comfortably, did a very, very nice job in Q3 as well. The car isn't brilliantly quick in a straight line, about the same sort of speed as the Mercedes. But afterwards, it was a pleasure to hear Fernando say how much he'd enjoyed driving the car in qualifying. And he'd been living with understeer, as I said yesterday, but they managed to dial some of that out for the one lap. You've got to think that maybe that understeer problem will reoccur in race conditions. Let's hope it doesn't for Fernando's point of view. But nonetheless, to have got this far, the way he has, good job. Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda, both of them got through to Q3. Daniel Ricciardo, please note. And Charles Leclerc, also very good for Ferrari. I'll say very good. Ferrari really struggling here, incredibly slow. I mean, if Lando's doing 317, think about this. The Ferraris are doing 309, 308. That's how much downforce they've had to put on that car to get it to work in any sort of form and look after its tyres around a circuit like Austria. So both of them really struggling. Carlos Sainz had a track limits drama, didn't get out of Q2. Charles Leclerc did a very, very good job in what is obviously a difficult car, very frustrating weekend, which is a mystery really when you think of how well Ferrari went, relatively speaking, compared with last year, in a circuit like Bahrain. So if they're going well there, you would imagine they'd be half reasonable around Austria, but sadly not. Ferrari seem to be really struggling at the moment. But look for Charles Leclerc, as ever, to put in one of those fighting drives in the midfield and finish something like 5th or 6th or something with very little acclaim, but getting the maximum from the car. That's what he does. But just to go back to George, because it's difficult not to, amazing that he managed to out-qualify both Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari and Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren-Mercedes. Very, very impressive. There is a chance of rain tomorrow. I think Lewis Hamilton, more than any other driver in the world, wants it to rain. We'll see what happens, and we'll see you then.